Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Keron Rose.
Thank you to everybody tuning in to another episode of the Digipreneur FM podcast. And as usual, it is your boy, Mr. Rose. DJ, you know what to do. You gotta fade us all the way out because we gotta talk to the people. My goodness. It is October 28th, 2024, and this is episode number 174. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you lovely people in the Digipreneur family doing all across the globe? How are y'all doing? How are y'all feeling? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. Whew. This is our second episode from Thailand. And you know what? When I got here, it's officially been 1 month, right? So it's officially been 1 month since I've been here. Yesterday was actually the 1 month of me moving into my place, and I only came here a couple of days before I actually moved into my condo. So, you know, I really took this first month to kind of detox. And there was a lot of, work that I had to do, and there were still obligations that I had. But, I didn't get into the full swing of work mode yet. I was kind of just doing what I had to do. And I realized, you know what? I should not be rushing back into getting into the full, the full suite of things. And I really did take this first month to kind of just detox, unwind, relax. And, so now that we're getting into November, I definitely need to and want to get back into the swing of things, And since I've, made the move and I'm looking at the countries that I've been tuning into the podcast, this month has been very interesting because the countries that have been listening to the podcast, some of them have never really been on my radar before. So let me just run through the countries that I've been tuning into the podcast this month. I think it's really dope. So United States, they've been there, but this is the first month where the U.S. has been the number one country listening into the podcast, followed by Trinidad and Tobago. And in the third spot, this is a country that I've never, ever seen on my list of countries streaming the podcast, which is Brazil. So shout outs to Brazil coming in at number 3. Then we have Canada, Jamaica, Germany, Puerto Rico, Bangladesh, Cayman Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia. Thailand is finally, funny enough, Thailand is now finally got people listening into the podcast. So that's pretty dope. Then we have Norway, Barbados. Norway has never been a country that's listened to the podcast either. Argentina, St. Bart's, never seen them in the mix before either. Bahamas is inside. China's inside. Indonesia's inside. I've never had people from Indonesia listen to the podcast as well. India, Namibia, another first time I'm seeing this country on the list. Russia, which is another first. I've seen them reading my content. I've never seen Russian people listening. Actually, no, I'm lying. Russia has been on the list. My fault. Russia has been on the list. Uganda, British Virgin Islands, and South Africa. So that is the list of countries that have been listening to the podcast this month, and I really thought, that was interesting, just to see where the listeners are coming in from, and you just realize day by day that your content is always going to your content is going to get you into doors that you more than likely have not been in yourself as yet. I haven't gone to 80% of the countries that are listening to the podcast this month. But guess what? They're listening. All right. So if you are somebody who is, if you're ever worried about why you should be creating content, or if you're ever worried about, if you should be creating content, you need to get yourself together, get your message out there, put your stuff out there, because the world needs your insights, needs your experiences, and there's going to be people from all over the world that are going to listen to what you're putting out, because there's things that they can take that they can now implement in their own capacity, in their own markets, in their own countries, right? So shout outs to everybody that's been tuning in to the podcast. And I'm in a bit of a transition coming down to the end of the year, and I don't fully know what that looks like 110% as yet, but I do know that I'm in a very unique situation where I'm in Asia, and obviously Asia is the leading region in the world when it comes to technology, e-commerce, digital payments, and whatnot, and I'm still I'm still toying with how I want to do it, but I really want to double down on the content creation. So whilst you guys know I'm a digital strategist and I work with companies to do their thing digitally, I really want to focus on the content creation side, because there's so much to learn. And we don't have people from the Caribbean region that are in this part of the world that are siphoning as much information about digital payments, the cashless tools, digital wallets, doing business online, and then putting that information back into the Caribbean region so that they can take those insights and see what they can implement and run with, right? Really get the inside scoop as to how things are being done. So that's the idea as to where I want to really hone in on. It's just that now I need to go out and make those adjustments. And when I say adjustments, it's a big adjustment. It really is a big adjustment. When it comes to content, I've said this before, I create every piece of content you can think of, from audio. Naturally, you listen to the podcast. I do radio, I do TV, I do news columns, I blog, every format, right? Video, written, audio, I'm there, right? But video content always takes the most energy out of me. And I really have to be in a mood to shoot video content, right? Which is why I OD on everything else and I just kind of sprinkle in my video content, because I know the importance of all formats of content. But more often than not, I'm never in the mood to be on video. I'm never in the mood to shoot video content. I'll OD on everything else. But the big adjustment for me has to be, did I say Germany? I'm now looking at the data. I don't think I said Germany. Germany. Shout outs to Germany tuning into the podcast. But yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked. The adjustment for me has to mentally get to a place where the interviews that I do and I conduct, it's got to be more video heavy than everything else. I'll still be able to take the information that I'm getting and turning it into every other format, but the interviews that I want to conduct are going to be video first, right? And I have to mentally get there. I have to mentally prepare myself to do a lot more video content. Yeah. And that's a big transition. That's a big thing for me, right? So if you are somebody where when you're thinking about content and you keep hearing video, 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 no, you do not need to do 100% video, right? Because I've built my brand on blogging, right? I've built my brand on blogging. That's the basis of where my brand has come from. And I've just grown and evolved into all the other formats. And now I have a excellent mix of content where I can, I can cut down on video content because I'm doing every other possible thing you could think of, right? Both in the traditional media space and the digital space. That's not by accident. That's all by planning, right? But I know that this next year, um, coming January, I really, really, really need to make the shift into this direction because I know it is a unique avenue for me, and I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun doing it. I just need to mentally get there, but then there's a lot of research that I have to do. Remember, I don't know nobody. I'm in a place again where it's like Trinidad all over. When I came to Trinidad in 2014, I didn't know anybody, right? I had to go and network and I had to meet people. So it's the same thing all over again. I got to network, I got to meet people, I got to see who is who, what is what, hope and pray that they speak English and really connect so I can start to gain those insights so I can turn that into content. So that's really where my mind has been at. And like I said, I know that for November, December, the world is winding down, right? And I'm just kind of relaxing, but still doing my thing, still exploring. But I know that so many of you are so tuned into what I'm doing right now. So I'm trying to balance between doing what I want to do, but then also giving you what you guys want to hear and what you want to read and what you want to see as well. But bear with me, right? Bear with me because like I said, I'm in this transitionary phase right now, and I'm figuring what this next evolution of the Digipreneur brand looks like. All right? So bear with me, all right? That being said, today we are going to be talking about what your marketing team should look like in 2025. I think it's a perfect time to break this down and review it because I know. I know because I'm in a lot of meetings right now with companies, and companies are really struggling on creating their marketing teams. More often than you think, companies are struggling with creating the actual teams, and companies still think that one person could do the work of a team, but it's also because they don't understand the different facets as to what goes into the actual team, or what does that team look like. So we absolutely have to address, what does your marketing team look like in 2025 moving forward? And if you're not creating the right team, given where the world is at right now when it comes to the digital space, if you don't have the right team, you're not going to get the results. Like, and the rest of the world is so far ahead of us in the Caribbean when it comes to the digital space. That gap is going to be a chasm. That gap is going to be the size of the Grand Canyon by the start of 2025. And we got to start getting on the right page in order to start closing the gap, because the gap right now is the size of the Grand Canyon. And again, it's not until you come outside of the entire Caribbean region with your eyes wide open and you start really looking at your industry and seeing what the best practices globally look like, that you realize, oh wow, we are really, really, really far behind. Some industries might be a lot closer, but in the space of marketing, yeah, nah, we're not close. All right. So we're going to be looking at what your marketing team should look like as we head into 2025. We don't appreciate how evolved and how quickly the digital landscape is growing. And companies have struggled to meet the modern demands. They really have. They're still, like I said, throwing everything into one role. So from new roles and the technologies to a shift in how we approach the strategies, assembling the right team and the right skill sets is critical. Whether you are a small mom and pop shop or whether you are an established brand or a corporation, you need to understand the future of digital marketing in order to help you thrive in this competitive space that we are in. So we're going to be looking at some of the common mistakes that companies make when building out their teams or the lack of a team. And then we're going to be looking at some of the pitfalls that companies are running into in creating that balance between a high-performing team that drives growth and a team that just gets by, right? So what are those top mistakes that companies make when building their team? And you're probably wondering, how did I manage to get it down just to 5? But I narrowed it down to 5, right? Let's talk about 5 of the top mistakes that companies are making when building out their team. So number 1, which is the biggest one, which is bundling multiple roles into one. Many companies assign numerous responsibilities to a singular person, expecting them to cover areas like digital strategy, social media, SEO, email marketing, paid ads, data and analytics, community management, you name it. And this overload often leads to burnout, reduced effectiveness, and straight up poor quality of work. And we see all of these things happening every single day, which is why many of the agencies, many of these companies have such high turnover for personnel. And then the work that you watch isn't good, right? The best work that companies tend to put out usually is because they've decided to hire a popular content creator and told them to create something. And that's usually the best work. That should never be your best work. It should never be your best work. I'm not saying that it should be worse, but if you are relying on content creators and 99.9% of them have no relation to your industry, if you are relying on them to produce your best work, you're in loads of trouble. You're not in a good place. You're not in a good place if the best work from a marketing perspective that you're putting out there is coming from a content creator that is outside of your organization. That's not where you want to be. You want to fix that. The work you do with your content creator should be the cherry on top, but it should never be the best work that you're putting out. So bundling multiple roles into one position is the biggest problem. Second problem is the overemphasis on social media alone. My God. It amazes me whenever I see this. And this is the average company, whether they're small or the largest. Social media is important. Yes, we know that. But it's only one aspect of digital marketing. Companies that are solely focusing on social channels risk missing out on all of the other critical areas like search engine optimization, content marketing, data and analytics. Now we have AI in full swing. If you are only focusing on social media, then you could never build omnipresence. You could never show up in all of the different places, all the key touch points. What touch points do you have if you only have an Instagram strategy? What touch points do you have if you're only on LinkedIn? What touch points do you have if you're only on TikTok? If you're only using social media, you're missing out on all of the critical touch points that your customers frequent and utilize on a daily basis to make decisions on their life. So focusing on social media alone already tells me that your company's marketing department is in trouble. If your team could only think and talk about social media, your marketing team is in trouble because it shows that they don't understand digital marketing. We're not talking about social media marketing. Social media marketing is one aspect of digital marketing. So if your team does not understand digital marketing because they're only focusing on social media, your company's marketing team is in trouble. And it's a clear-cut sign that you have problems. The third key mistake that companies are making: ignoring data and analytics. Data and analytics is a crucial part to tracking the effectiveness of your campaign, yet companies often overlook it or fail to hire anyone with expertise to interpret the data. Without proper analysis, it's challenging to make informed decisions or optimize your marketing campaigns effectively. How are you doing your market research, your digital market research? How are you conducting your audience and demographics research? How are you doing these things if you don't have nobody internally to do it for you? And what I've seen is that there are companies that even when they invest in the tools to do research and to capture data, what they lack people internally that can look at the data and turn it into an actionable strategy, or they don't have people that can look at the data to determine whether or not what they did for the last month was good, was it effective, or whether it wasn't good, and how can we take that data and turn it into actionable steps for us to improve for the next month. So there's a lot of time. Listen, it's always funny to me, right? I do a lot of case studies where companies like to say things like, oh, we don't have no data. But I do a lot of these case studies to show, no, there's tons of data. You guys just don't have the people to do the data research for you. So I do these case studies, and then I'll have companies that'll reach out and be like, oh, well, yeah, we have the tools. So we see this data. It's not news, but I can tell you don't use the data, because if you did, there would be a lot of things that you'd be doing or that would be visible in your brand that are absent. And then when you have the conversations, they say, you're right. We have the data, but we don't have anybody to do anything with the data. So it's just there doing nothing. That's a major problem. And every single company I see in the Caribbean has that problem. Even when they have the tools to collect the data, they don't have anybody that can leverage that data and turn it into a meaningful strategy or actionable steps so that they can be more effective. Whew, I just had to take a little smell of this Thailand herbal inhaler. I always forget the name of it, but my goodness, it's effective. Just clears your nostrils right up. The fourth key mistake that companies are making is lack of strategic oversight. So every single team needs a digital strategist to connect each function in the company's larger goals. Companies without this guiding role often face fragmented efforts, with various specialists working in silos, leading to inconsistency and missed opportunities. But the challenge is, where does a company in the Caribbean go to get digital strategists when there are no programs? There are no programs in the universities to create digital strategists. There's no course in UE. There's no course in UTT or any of our universities in the Caribbean. There is no digital strategist course. That's a problem, because this is going to be your lead person to help you craft your entire digital strategy. And this is why whenever you look at it, again, it doesn't even matter what size of the company it is, the biggest or the smallest, as a digital strategist, when I look at all of these companies, I already see that they don't have a digital strategy. They have a social media strategy. And that's just all they stick to, right? They have a social media strategy. They have a traditional media strategy. So they're still going to do billboards. They're still going to do TV ads. They're still going to do radio ads and that type of thing. But they don't have a digital strategy. You even have companies that are like, we need to convince our C-suite team to dive into digital more. We're going into 2025. I don't think anybody needs to be convinced, or if your executive needs to be convinced that you need to invest in a digital strategy, you're not going to grow. And your thinking is off. It could never be that going into 2025, organizations of some of the biggest companies need to be convinced to invest in digital when every single thing we do is digital. I mean, everything we do is digital now. So what do you mean you need to be convinced to invest into really building a digital strategy to meet your customers where they're at? I'm not telling you you need to stop doing traditional, because traditional still has big benefits. But you need to understand the full scope of how to leverage traditional, how to leverage digital media, and create a nice cohesive plan, because traditional media has digital benefits. Traditional media has digital benefits, and you need to create a strategy where you have that traditional and digital working hand in hand. And if you don't, then you're not going to be creating those multiple touch points, meeting your clients where they are at. Right? You have an audience, regardless of whatever your brand is. You have an audience in every single channel, traditional or digital. Whether it's blogs, whether it's podcasts, whether it's an online radio, doesn't matter. You have an audience everywhere. The problem is that Caribbean companies never get creative to tap into the different audiences and meet people where they are at. I have an audience on every single channel. My focus has really been on trying to get creative to tap into every single audience, because I want to be omnipresent. I want to build the biggest brand when it comes to digital strategy. All right. So you have an audience in every single channel. Are you creative enough to tap into that? That's a whole different story. And the fifth top mistake that companies are making when building out their digital marketing team is underestimating content creation needs. So effective content marketing requires high quality work and consistent content. Companies frequently undervalue this by either not investing enough in resources or relying on generalists rather than dedicated content creators, which dilutes the brand's message and reduces the impact. I can't say enough about that. That alone might need to be an entire episode, because we really underestimate what goes into content creation. One person cannot create all the content that you need. One person could create your video content, your reels and whatnot. That same person is not going to be the person creating your blog content, not the person that's going to be creating your podcast content, not the person that's going to be writing content that would make it to the newspapers. But you need to figure that out. They try to get one person to do all these things. It's amazing when I see jobs that are like, yeah, you have to create all the video content, you have to create the blog content, the written content, you have to create press releases, you have to create speeches. What? This is not the same skill set. And those people are not in the same mind frame to create your social media content and then go write a friggin' an article for the newspaper. Like, it's not the same skill set. You're not even in the same frame of mind to do that. So those are 5 key areas that companies are struggling with tremendously. and it's hampering their marketing efforts, right? And it just pretty much killing their marketing team. They're still trying to pack all of these things into one person, or I'll have companies reaching out and they're trying to optimize the role of one person. And I don't even know what to, again, I don't even know what to say anymore, because we're going into 2025. How are we still struggling with the basics? The bare basics. Where is your HR team? Where is your HR team? Where is your team conducting the research on what what are the makeups of your team? Like, there should be somebody, and typically that person be in HR, but where is your team that is going to be doing all of the investigative research into creating and crafting the right teams for the various departments? Somebody in your organization should be responsible for learning all of the things that what a marketing team should look like in 2025, and then working with your executives and managers and the marketing team to craft the right team. But somebody should be doing that research, and that just doesn't happen. What is happening is we're just cramming everything into one role, and then we're wondering why people are overworked, they're burnt out, or you just don't attract the right talent. So think about that. But now let's get into, what does a well-structured digital marketing team look like? How many people should that marketing team have? So a well-built, well-structured digital marketing team right now should have around 7 to 10 core team members, depending on your company size and the objectives of your team. So let's look at, what does that team, that digital marketing team, what should it look like right now? So the first position you need is going to be your digital marketing strategist. This is typically going to be one person that is responsible for creating the overall digital marketing strategy, aligning all of the functions with company goals, and leading the team to ensure cohesive efforts. Now, most companies will say, well, we already have a marketing manager. Chances are your marketing manager isn't good at digital. They might be good at traditional marketing. They might have that background, but I don't really see companies that have marketing managers who understand digital or who are good at digital. All right. So you could have a digital strategist that reports to the marketing manager, like your group marketing manager. But you need a digital strategist. This is somebody that their entire brain is wired for digital. Okay. So they are responsible for creating the overall digital marketing strategy, aligning the functions with the company goals, and leading the team to ensure that everything is cohesive. The second person that you need on that team is going to be your content marketing specialist. And depending on the size of your organization, this is going to be 1 to 2 people. Okay. And they're going to be developing the content strategies, producing the blog content, ensuring that the video content gets produced. They may not be the person producing it, because you're probably going to have a social media specialist that's going to be creating that content for you, right? But they could be creating the video content. They could be working with, if you do have some freelancers to create video content, they could be working with them to create that video content. They're going to be producing the infographics, and they're going to be collaborating with other people within the team so that they can create the right content plan and create the right content across all of your platforms. So depending on the size of your organization, your content marketing specialist could be 1 or 2 people, but if you're in a really big organization, it could be a bit more than that. All right. Then you have your SEO specialist. So this is going to be typically, depending on the size of the organization, could be 1 or 2 people, but chances are it may just be 1. Especially in the Caribbean, you probably really only need 1 person handling this role, right? And this is going to be the SEO specialist is going to be focusing on optimizing the content for search engines. They're going to be conducting all of the keyword and data research, and they're also going to be improving the website's organic traction. So that person's going to be doing all that research. A lot of the data research that SEO specialists do can actually help the digital strategists and the content marketing specialists as well, because of all of the data insights that they get in their research, and that can form that can feed into the overall digital strategy and the actual content strategy as well. So that's your SEO specialist, your search engine optimization specialist. Then you have your social media manager, which typically is going to be one person, and they're going to be managing all of the social media accounts. They're going to be engaging with the followers, planning the campaigns, maintaining a brand presence across all platforms. That's your social media manager. Depending on your organization, you may need a couple of these people. For example, let's just say you are a distributor, all right? So you are one company, but you are a distributor, and you have like 8 divisions, and each division, so you have like a food division, a pharmaceutical division, you have a whatever else, right? And each division manages you're reselling products for like 10, 20 different brands. Yeah, you're going to need multiple social media managers, because that one person could be managing for that division. They could be they alone could have a suite of digital of social media accounts that they have to manage. So you will have one person managing the pharmaceutical division. So that pharmacy division might have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, right? So you have one person managing that. But then you also have to keep in mind that what if some of those brands require by contract their own social media platforms? So that person is not only managing your company pharmaceutical page, but they also have to manage the specific brand's social media channels as well, because maybe that brand has in their contract with you that they require their own social media channels as well. So all of those things you have to keep in mind, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And a lot of the retailers, the resellers, I should say, or the distributors, a lot of them struggle because you're on contract, and that one particular brand has to have their own digital channels, and they're willing to give you content, but the content that they give you is from a completely different market, and none of it resonates in our market. Those are things you have to consider, right? I hear it all the time. I see it all the time. Oh, well, the brand is supplying us the content. It could never work. Because the content that is going to work in China is not going to work in Australia. The content that the US market is going to give you to post to your Caribbean market is not going to work. Never going to work. It doesn't work. So you have to keep that in mind when you are, especially because we have so many businesses in the Caribbean that are just resellers, right? So you have to pay attention to that, right? You can't have one person manage your company's social media, and then you have a multitude of brands, and then you have brands that require their own social media channels as well. Where does it end? You have to think about that. Then, next up on your team, you're going to have an email marketing specialist. So this is typically going to be one person. But again, if you are a retailer or a reseller or a distributor, you need to think about this because you're managing multiple brands. But on average, you really just need one email marketing specialist, and they're going to be the ones developing and executing the email marketing strategies. They're going to be segmenting the audiences and automating the workflows to nurture leads and maintain customer engagement. That's your email marketing specialist. Next person on your team is going to be your paid advertising specialist. So this is typically going to be one person. They're going to manage the paid campaigns across Google, Facebook, and the other platforms that you're going to be advertising on. They're going to be optimizing your ad spend and targeting specific audiences to drive conversions, right? That's your paid advertising specialist. Number 7, the 7th person on your team is going to be your analytics and reporting specialist. So they're going to be the ones to track and analyze the performance across all of your channels, providing insights that inform and optimize your future strategies. This is an actual person, okay, that you need to have on your team. And last but not least, you're going to have your community manager. So this person's going to be engaging with the followers on social media platforms, responding to the feedback, fostering a loyal brand community. So again, they're going to be the ones that are going to be posting challenges. Maybe they're the ones that are doing Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups. Again, they're going to be the ones to manage all of that. Your community manager and your social media manager, there's going to be some overlap in some of the things that they do, but what they do, your social media manager is going to be managing the actual accounts, planning the campaigns, and trying to figure out how to grow the brand on social media, right? So what I would probably say is I probably wouldn't look at my social media manager to be the one engaging engaging the followers. I might leave that part to the community manager, right? And your community manager is really managing the community, engaging with followers on the social media channels, responding to feedback, responding to comments, creating the groups on the different social media channels, because I mean Facebook groups is one of the most coveted real estates in the social media space, as it has the highest engagement, right? But those types of things would fall under your community manager. So those are the 8 people that your organization needs to have in your team. Now, I already know people are listening and they're like, oh, we can't hire all of these people. You're right. You don't need to hire all of these people. Let's talk about how, and this is where HR and your executive team needs to come in, because now you need to figure out, based on your organization's resources, you need to figure out what is going to be a full-time role, a part-time role, and what are we going to use as freelancers. So your full-time roles that you should have internally should be your digital marketing strategist, which is essential for continuity and alignment across all campaigns. The second full-time role should be your content marketing specialist, because content is critical and requires a dedicated presence to keep up with the demand. The third should be your social media managers. Social media requires constant monitoring, engagement, and that's something that you want to have as somebody full-time, watching all of your stuff. And then the fourth role that should be full-time is your analytics and reporting specialist, because you need to be continuously tracking your data and analyzing and using that information to support campaign adjustments and optimizing your strategies, right? So those are the 4 people that you should have in a full-time role: your digital marketing strategist, your content marketing strategist, your social media manager, and your analytics and reporting specialist. What should be a part-time role? A part-time role should be your email marketing specialist, because that could be created and then scheduled out, and then the workflows that they build are going to be automated as well. So that person could absolutely be a part-timer. Your community manager could also be a part-time person. They could work part-time, especially if, the engagement is scheduled during like peak hours, like maybe they only come in, or if you know that, like, because we have tools that are showing us when your peak engagement period is. So let's just say you've done your research, your data and your analytics and reporting specialist says, hey, our peak engagement times are between 12 to 4 on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. All the other days are on the really, really low end, right? Then you can schedule out your community manager to work those particular points in time. And again, those hours could always change. This person's going to be working remote as well. So those hours could always change. But I would look at, what days and what hours are peak time that we're getting engagement, right? Maybe you're not even posting every single day. So all of those things that you could factor in, and then you can figure out when you want your community manager to be available and watching so that they can engage with the content being posted. And then you have the freelance or outsourced roles. So I would be looking at Fiverr, freelancer.com. I would be trying to get in specialists from different parts of the world, because this is also going to save you tremendously on money, right? I would have an SEO specialist. That's a freelancer. For most organizations, especially in the Caribbean, you definitely don't need to have this person. You don't need to have this person as part of your full-time staff, right? Because SEO work can definitely be handled by freelancers, and then focusing on specific projects or doing your monthly audits, or again, you know how much content you're going to be producing on your website, so they're going to know exactly how much work needs to be done. And as long as, like, even for me, like when I'm working with clients, if they produce 4 to 8 articles a month, once it gets sent to me, then I take a couple of hours and do all my optimization and send it back, and that's it for me, right? Unless something else comes up. But in terms of optimizing the content, yeah, you definitely don't need that person to be. You don't need that person to be on a full timer on staff. Outsource that. Then you have paid advertising specialists. So paid campaigns can be managed by a freelancer for flexibility with campaign-based needs. You're not going to be advertising every single piece of content that you do. So when you create your content plan, you know exactly which ones you're going to want to throw some money behind. And when that thing rolls out, then you can engage a paid ad specialist. And because we don't have many paid ad specialists in the Caribbean, I would absolutely be tapping into the world of Fiverr and freelancer.com and leveraging the global freelancers, because you're going to get the specialists at the price points that you want. And again, you're not going to be doing every single piece of content or campaign as a paid ad. So definitely you want to have a paid ad specialist as a freelancer. And then third, last but not least, any additional content creators. So freelancers can supplement content creation when larger products or specific formats are needed. So, start building out your pool of freelance content creators, so that when you need a particular thing, you know who to bring in and to get exactly what you need done, right? But this structure is going to balance core expertise and also cost-effective support. That's going to allow your team to be flexible and adaptable moving forward. But this is where your company needs to start thinking when it comes to digital marketing. Digital marketing is not a one-person role. You need a team of specialists, because the specializations are deep. Each specialization is deep. One person cannot be expected to do all of these things for a company. And to you people that have multiple skill sets, stop raising your hand. Every time you see a company post this ridiculous job description, you look stupid when you're commenting, oh, give it to me. All you got to do is pay me $20,000 a month and I'm going to do it. No, you look dumb. You look very dumb, because all that says to me is you don't understand how much work is involved, right? If the company wanted to go and spend $20,000-$30,000 on you to do all of these things, then why wouldn't they just turn that money into a team? Again, you sound dumb. So stop commenting, oh, just give me this amount of money and I'll do it all. You can't do it all for a company. The breadth of work is a lot, and you don't have the bandwidth to service a company. Everything that I talk about, I do for myself, because it's just me. It's just me. But when organizations call me, you bet your bottom dollar I'm picking the specific things that I want to assist with. The very specific things that I want to assist with, because we need to have support. I cannot do it all for a company, even though I am very comfortable with doing all the different aspects. Well, 90% of the specializations for digital marketing, I'm comfortable doing on my own for myself, And even though I have the skill sets to do it for an organization, I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the manpower to generate the amount of work that these companies need in order for them to be successful when it comes to digital marketing. So for you that have the skill sets, understand that yes, that's part of it, but you don't have the bandwidth to deliver the volume of work that these organizations are going to need. Okay? As for you companies, those are the 8 people that you're going to need for your organization. And then you just have to figure out with HR and with your executives and your managers, which do we bring in full time, and which roles could be part time and which roles could be freelancers. And then figure out your budgets. But that is what your team is going to look like in 2025 and moving forward. Anything short of that, you're not going to succeed. And you're just going to continue to struggle. And the companies that do get it right are going to outpace you. Your customers, your clients, they are increasingly getting more digitally savvy. And you in the Caribbean cannot rely on just traditional media. I'm not saying you can't do traditional media. As I said, you need to have a cohesive strategy that blends both traditional and digital media, because traditional media has digital benefits. But you need to have the right people in play that understand the benefits to traditional media and the digital benefits, because they're going to enhance the work that you do digitally. For example, my guy Lyndon Bradford did a whole video the other day from an insurance company that sent out flyers in everybody's mailbox. And the flyers he was talking about, at the end of the day, we're not reading these flyers that come in our mailbox. And there is no digital link, so there was no, hey, scan the QR code, because we're going to have more information and more dynamic information and more in-depth information. It was just straight up flyer. That could have had digital benefits had there been a tie-in to a website, a YouTube, something, anything. But this is where your team needs to start thinking. Okay? So those are the 8 roles that your marketing team needs. Digital strategist, content marketing specialist, SEO specialist, social media manager, email marketing specialist, paid ad specialist, analytics and reporting specialist, community manager. Those are the 8 people that you need. Then you got to figure out what's full-time, what's part-time, what is freelancers. All right? And if you're a very small organization, then just double down on the freelancers. Try to hire just one digital strategist and maybe a content creator, but you have access to freelancers. So that way you're not, stuck because you don't have the budget to hire a full-out team. Okay? And if you are a team if you are a company that has a marketing team, you need to be reviewing your internal skill sets. Does your team have the skill sets? Does your team want to upskill? What are you going to do to coach people out so that you can bring in the right talent to help you get what you want? All of those are questions that you need to start asking now. That way you can position yourself to get the jump in 2025. All right. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode on the top people that you're going to need for your marketing team. And I hope it was very helpful. Okay. If you want to continue following your boy and learning more about digital marketing, e-commerce, life in Asia, and again, just the technology aspect, if you want to follow all that stuff, ensure that you continue to check out KeronRose.com. Excuse me, my goodness. Don't forget to check out the digipreneur.fm website. Links to that in the show notes. Follow me across all social media channels at KeronRosc, across Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, whatever platform you want, I will be there. All right? YouTube, everything. Just Type my name in, you're going to find everything else. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to rate the podcast. If you're listening in from Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please rate the podcast. The ratings continue to help grow the podcast all over the world. And don't forget, if you really enjoyed the podcast, to drop a review. The reviews help to let people know what to expect when listening to the podcast. It gives me insights into, what you guys like, what you guys dislike. So don't forget to leave a review for me. I would tremendously appreciate it. But that is it from me today, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your Monday, and I will see y'all in the next episode. Take care.
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Keron Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Keron Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.